I was looking for something to connect to. I'd grown up Catholic, and it just didn't seem to fit me anymore. And someone told me about this church where, you could explore your beliefs. And so my wife and I went, and Martha, who's cooking lovely pizzas for us back in the back. So I was talking to her before I was writing this sermon, and I said, "Do you remember the Flower Communion?" And we were thinking back 40 years, so have to give us a little bit of break with that. And we thought about it. And we thought, it really wasn't so much an independent communion like we've just done. It was more part of an Easter service. And as we continued in Unitarian Universalist churches, and we attended a number of them, we came to understand that Maya Chah-Peck didn't want the Flower Communion to be part of the Easter celebration, because it's not about resurrection or even about spring. This ceremony is about diversity and unity, about community and resilience, and really most of all, about love. I guess I didn't really fully grasp the meaning of the ceremony when I was in my first Unitarian Universalist church. I saw the beautiful flowers, and I saw people coming forward to take one away that they didn't bring. I guess I just didn't think much about it. I had a faint recognition of this similarity between the communion I had experienced in the Catholic Church, where you came up and got a little piece of bread, and it was to take away your sins, and coming up to get a flower. And there was some dissonance in my head about that something wasn't right, didn't seem like exactly what I remembered. But like the frog in the well, I had just lived in my own little world, with my own little mindset that I grew up with, not really expanding my horizons or perspectives all that much. My worldview pretty much was based on what I'd learned from my parents, from my church, from my school teachers, from all the adults around me. But here's the thing. Coming into my first Unitarian Universalist congregation, I felt like the frog in the well around a ton of ocean frogs. And they were all offering me all kinds of ideas about how they saw the world and how they experienced religion and spirituality or not. And their views were diverse, to say the least. They weren't trying to convince me I needed to believe the way that they did. But they offered me the opportunity to see the expansiveness and complexity of life and the universe and everything. I can tell you, having lived in my own little well until I was a young adult, that moving beyond my own little well as a, sort of a frog, moving beyond my little well was challenging. And I didn't know if I could do it. I remember going to my first social with a bunch of Unitarians. And everybody was having a glass of wine, and they were telling me all kinds of different worldviews, all kinds of different things that I should understand and think about. And I was like, man, I can't drink and talk to these people. I have to be on my toes. And I can tell you that there were times, as they were telling me about their different worldviews, that I did get a little grumpy, like our little frog in the well. Because it felt like they were trying to get me to see something I couldn't see. I had no perspective. It was easier being the frog in the well because I thought my worldview was right. and that there wasn't anything else. I don't know what you think about this, but as I think about the well, it's kind of like a silo. You know, wells and silos aren't structured for collaboration or interaction or really growth, for that matter. They're vertical, top-down structures, inwardly focused, not outwardly available. Cliquish and rigid, resistance to new ways of being, closed to new understanding. Right now, across the country, our denomination is opening its collective eyes to the wells and the silos that exist within our congregations and our leadership structures, locally, regionally, nationally. And we're being asked to see the country that we live in as a white supremacist culture. A white supremacist culture. And it can be difficult for many of our denomination's legacy members to embrace that there are other ways to see our country that decenter whiteness. Ways that might open up congregations, our denomination, to different cultural perspectives, but also serve as aspirational models. One example is the Unitarian Universalist Association and the Unitarian Universalist Ministers Association and the congregations across this country have changed how they do governance. Instead of having a vertical structure with president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, they're going to a horizontal model where everybody that's on the board or in leadership are of equal power. And they each have portfolios based on their own skills and talents. And they work collaboratively to make decisions. It's a whole different way of being in leadership. And you might wonder, what does this have to do with this flower communion? Well, for me, the flower communion is about the differences that we share in perspective, skills, talents, and resources, because we're all different. And we bring them together. We create this wonderful bouquet that we call a congregation. But this bouquet is not static. It's always changing. New people, new friends, new members joining us, expanding our worldview, bringing new ways of approaching issues, of making decisions, new ways of allocating our resources. I find this process of seeing beyond the well that we live in wonderful, inspiring, interesting, and, yes, challenging. I grow, we all grow together as a community. For me, this flower communion is a powerful representation of the evolution of who we are and what we're capable of. To me, that is beautiful. So as we come together as a community, as we bring our diversity into some kind of unity, let's not be too hard on each other. Change can be a little difficult, as the well frog became aware of. I've been a well frog. You have been a well frog. We've all been a well frog from time to time. So let's be loving and compassionate with each other as we each make our own decision to jump out of our wells, out of our silos, and into an ocean, the ocean of Unitarian Universalism. So may it be.